back to the ACT prep. In the spring, we offer an ACT prep course here at the high school. It spans a couple nights, but essentially just prepares you for the actual ACT test. It's a great practice. It's the best practice that you can have outside of going on to college board.
When is that?
It's
Yeah, so you'll get information in about January, late January for that. We'll mail something home and then send it out via Infinite Campus as well. And it aligns with like getting you ready for the April ACT.
There's a lot of information and shoved down your throat. So, any questions? Yep.
So if I understood correctly on the composite ACT, a kid could take an ACT 7 times their junior year and 4, 5, 6 times their senior year, as long as a parent chooses to pay that amount to take it that many times. And at the end of taking all of those tests, they'll take the best English, the best math, and the best whatever else.
Yep.
And then that's what gets submitted to the college. And the college never knows that your kid took it 12 times.
It does have a date on there, so if like there's 4 different dates, they'll know. It has a date associated to each score. But it doesn't matter in the end. Like if they're like, hey, you need a 30 or higher, you have a 30 or higher.
Yeah.
But statistically, we don't see that scores vary that much.
Yep. So 2 to 3 times really. Max.
Do all colleges super score? Is that?
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
How long does it take to get ACT results to determine whether you want to take it again?
That is a good question.
Not long. I would say less than a month. Yeah.
Never seen that before.
All right, this is my spot, so I'm gonna come up to the press. Okay, so again, like we've said, the junior year is for some career planning, getting those conversations going about what are you gonna do, where are you gonna go, who you wanna be. And so one of the great resources that we have here at the high school and statewide, the state of South Dakota has created a program called Zello. Your child has probably been in it for a number of years. However, at the high school, there are a couple classes that use it. Usually in the upper level classes, like World of Work, internship, I think a couple other classes use it. But it's a great way to kind of hone in on what you're thinking about. So there's a couple of assessments within Zello, the Matchmaker and the Ability Profiler. One's a skills-based assessment and one is an aptitude test. And they mesh together at the very end, and it gives you a list of careers that you may be interested in based on your skills and your interests. So when I go into my Zello account and I do these 2 assessments and I pull a list of what careers I may want, it comes up with 7 different types of counselors, so I think I went to the right field. And then it also pulls up like flight attendants, some odd things that I may not be interested in. So you can click on those different careers, and it gives you a vast amount of information, like what kind of major do you need to go into that field? What kind of salary range will you have based on the different states that you may choose to live in? How much is this profession going to be needed in different parts of the country? Like in South Dakota, we need plumbers and welders and HVAC and lots of different types of tech positions. That may not be across the country. So and then at the same time, it gives, based on the major that you need, it gives the colleges that have that major. So then instead of going on the World Wide Web and being overwhelmed, you can say, okay, well, I think I want to be a nurse in South Dakota. Where can I go to get a nursing degree? And so it kind of funnels it in a way that might be less overwhelming. There is also a method test prep available on the website. And this is going to be, again, getting your student ready for the ACT or the SAT by giving them practice questions. What are those questions going to look like? How do you need to read them? And so you can time yourself as you take those questions, kind of get a feel for what is the ACT gonna feel like when you sit down and actually take it in a timed manner. Go back one time. If your student does not have their login, have them come to the counseling office. We'll just print off their login, give it to them, and if they have questions or comments or concerns or wanna have a conversation, they can just pop on in and we can start that conversation wherever they may be in that process. And again, it's free. And it's free up until 5 years after they graduate. So even if they get to this point and they're like, oh, like the conversations I'm starting to have with students, and they don't know, they can still have this after graduation and still, figure it out. Okay, financing education. It kind of feels like this, signing your life away. We do not have time anymore to figure college out when you get there. And so that's why we want to have these conversations early on, because when you get to college, you gotta know at this point. Otherwise, you end up paying a lot more than you probably should. Back up, can't read. Okay, so when we talk about financing education, we really encourage parents and students to come to our financial aid night. We have a representative who is FAFSA oriented come in and help parents get through the FAFSA night. You guys bring in your documentation, you work with the representative, and boom, your FAFSA's done. Several years ago, it was much harder, and the FAFSA has revamped as of last year. There were a whole bunch of hiccups, so we're hoping that the FAFSA is a little bit nicer this year, and we're hopeful that it will be. But it's not terrible anymore, and so that's really nice. The FAFSA.
Ms. Reyes, could you give us some reassurance?
Yeah, Ms.
on the
Reyes just went
FAFSA?
through the process, so do you have
I
any thoughts?
did, yeah, I went through the FAFSA last year. It was so stressful, guys. And the reason it was stressful was because it was delayed so many times that I had a student that was very much waiting for final hard and fast numbers from different schools to make a decision, and that was delayed until end of April. It was ridiculous. Filling out the FAFSA itself was super stress-free. Like that went okay, but then waiting for the results and waiting for the government to do what they had to do to get it to the college to process, and then get those final hard and fast numbers, that was the stressful piece. Now that being said, the schools did an amazing job. All of the schools that she was looking at, they did really sit down with us and say, here's what it's looking like. Here's what we're willing to offer you for scholarships. Here's what's anticipated to come back here. This would be kind of your estimated cost of attendance, but regardless of what comes back. And so that was helpful. She did have her decision made before then, but she's just someone who very much wants those very final numbers, and so that was the stressful piece of it. Now the FAFSA was supposed to open up October 1st. It's not opening till December 1st. But I'm confident that this year it's going to be a smoother process. And for you guys with the class of 26, hopefully by next year we'll be good to go in October, and we'll schedule our lab. Yeah, fingers crossed.
Yeah. Okay. So FAFSA is a free application by the government, and basically you fill it out, and then they give you an estimate of what they can give you in student financial aid. That would include scholarships, grants, which you do not have to pay back, and then also loans, which you can take. You can take in full, or you can take as much as you need, and then work study if you are eligible for that. Most students, likely, we don't see students paying the full USD price, with, just write us a check. They will work with you, and they have lots of scholarships, and we're going to be talking about scholarships in just a moment. And again, the financial aid package of what do you qualify for, what can we give you in scholarship, and then what is the final tuition. Gallup and Purdue have always said for many years, the higher amount of student loans that you have, the worse off for student well-being. And I know, being somebody that's going to pay on loans till almost 50 years old, I would love to have that money back, but it doesn't work that way. So figuring it out before you get to college is the way to go. Scholarships. We work with a ton of money, and I'm gonna talk about that. So, apply early to your school. And the reason I say that is when you get to the scholarship piece of the university that you're going to go to, the scholarship deadlines generally happen in November and early December. You have to have applied and been accepted to those places prior to filling out the scholarship application. And so my recommendation is apply in September and October, know where you're gonna go, know what you wanna do. Again, funneling that information down in the summertime and making sure that you're making a solid decision. Some of the scholarships that are big in South Dakota are, again, the opportunity scholarships were $7,500. Super simple application. Basically, you put your name and your social security number, send it off with a transcript, and you're golden as long as you have the transcript has the classes on it, and the 24 or above on the ACT. Dakota Core Scholarship is a high needs scholarship, but at the four-year universities here in South Dakota. The obligation for the full ride scholarship is that you work in your profession in South Dakota for the amount of years that you took on the tuition plus 1 year. So let's say you graduate in 4 years, you would then owe the South Dakota 5 years in order for it to, not default to a loan. Build Dakota is the same way, but the Build Dakota is for the tech schools. HVAC, plumbing, 2-year in nursing. The sheets that we sent around have over 50 different majors on them. So it's a really good program. And we see quite a few students come out of Yankton High School with Build Dakota scholarships. So that's always really exciting when they get one. It's like, yay! And again, the obligation for getting that full ride scholarship is 3 years in that profession in South Dakota with the sponsor that took you on, okay? So your sponsor's gonna pay for half of your tuition. The state of South Dakota with the Scholarship Foundation will pay for the other half. And so in order to repay that and not have it default to a loan, you will work with that sponsor for the next 3 years. Scholarships, they come in all shapes and sizes. They range from $100 to $150 on up. We have many, many, many scholarships in the counseling office, and we encourage people to apply even if they don't think that they can get it. We have students who say, oh, $250, that's not that much, I'm not gonna waste my time. Well, that could be a book. I mean, every dollar counts when you're talking about tens of thousands of dollars. And so fill out the application. You have no idea how many times we have scholarships that only have 1, 2, 3 applicants, and the scholarship people are like, where's the rest of them? I'll tell you a quick story. We had a student who there weren't any scholarship applicants for a specific scholarship, and the people who had the money, they said, do you have anybody that we could give this money to? And I said, I have somebody off the top of my head. Called him down and I said, if you give me a piece of paper with 2 paragraphs on it about this prompt, I will give you $1,000. He wouldn't do it. He walked away from me, wouldn't do it.
I had one of those last year too. He
So-
said no thanks.
Yep, so we try to give out money and sometimes we can't even find a buyer, so apply, even if you don't think that you can get it, it's worth a shot. Dr. Kendall called me 2 years ago at this point, the class of 23, and I don't know what he was doing with the information, but he asked, he said, how many scholarship, or in dollars, what did we give out last year to the class of 23? And I added it all up, took me a bit, and we gave out over $65,000 with the class of 2023. And so there is money, you just have to apply for it.
Okay. What's his name? Okay, I wrote down some of my random thoughts. So I'm gonna start with some random thoughts just after that. Right now is the perfect time for students to start making kind of resumes and working on that. And finding, like for example, if they know that I might want to Build Dakota Scholarship, make a connection with possibly a sponsoring business at this point. Start writing resumes, start writing essays, thinking kind of about what you want to do. because when you get into senior year, and there's like one scholarship in particular that juniors can, that rising seniors can apply for, and it requires just a ton of stuff, like an essay, letters of recommendation, a list of every single thing you've done with volunteer work and community service, academic awards and honors. If you get to the end of junior year and you don't have something like that, or you've never done any volunteer work, it's really hard. There's just not enough time, and that's why, make the junior year the planning year. Okay, so this is from How to Raise an Adult, which is a book by Julia Lipcott-Hames, former Stanford Dean of Students. And I have this book, and I was super excited. I was actually going to bring it and say, like, who wants to borrow it? And then I couldn't find it, so I think the last time I must have loaned it out and it never came back. But I'm going to get another copy. It is an awesome book. So these are some thoughts from How to Raise an Adult. Stop saying we. So we're not applying to college. We're not taking the ACT. We're not applying for scholarships. Your student is. This is something that I say, it was hard for me to kind of step back and allow my daughter who just graduated to make these decisions or not make these decisions. I remember there was a big scholarship, and this is being recorded, so even if you watch this, I'm sorry, I'm throwing you under the bus, but she decided she wasn't going to do. And it really kind of came back to bite her because it ended up being something that really would have benefited her. But in the end, I just kind of sat back as a parent, and it really bothered me. But Julie has one of these things that she says, wins don't pounce. And I was wincing. I for sure was wincing. But I wasn't pouncing. I wasn't saying, like, fine, then I'll do it. Okay, we need to do this. We need to make sure. It was one of those, okay, you're an adult. You're making this decision. And it's not the end of the world. It's not a life or death thing. This isn't, going to impact the course of your life. But it did hurt a little bit. So again, we're not doing that. Your student is doing that. Teach your student to talk to adults. This is a huge one. Okay, this is bigger than just talking to teachers. This is making appointments for themselves. Has anyone ever watched their junior try to make a phone call and set up an appointment for something simple? I have. It's painful, but it happens. And I seek out these opportunities to have her start doing some of this stuff for herself. I sent her to Vision Care yesterday, and I said, pick out your glasses, pick out the ones that you want. I will go pay for them, but I want you to have a conversation. I want you to find them. I want you to figure out the cost and give that to me, and then I'll take care of the rest. But make those appointments, do those things, talk to adults. Get used to that kind of stuff. Let your student do his or her own work. Okay, so that kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier. But truly, when it comes time for them to fill out the scholarships, them to ask teachers for their letters of recommendation, them to keep track of their schedules, wake themselves up on time, all of that stuff, that needs to happen. And you know what? It might be that they oversleep and they're late for an early morning practice. That might happen. It very well might. But what is the lesson? What can we learn from this? Okay? So it kind of goes along with, has anyone read the book, The Gift of Failure? That's another thing. So I think there's wins and losses, and oftentimes more can be learned from a loss than a win. So take advantage of those opportunities. The last one, put independence in his or her own way. So teaching the self-efficacy, trying to do things by themselves, even if it's not perfect, it's something that they can take ownership for, and that's going to mean a whole lot more. Putting independence in his or her own way. This is another thing. I'll give you another Ava example, and she won't mind that I use this one. She was driving to Vermilion last winter doing voice lessons, and something happened with her headlights, and the headlights just stopped working. And so she didn't know what to do, and she stopped somewhere. I wasn't even fully pulled over to the side of the road. And she's a very, very smart girl. But she called in, she was like, I don't know what to do, I can't see anything. And so obviously, I said, okay, pull over, find a place to pull over safely, and we'll be there. But then the conversation became, what would you do? At that time, she was looking at St. Olaf in Minnesota. And so I said, what would you do if you were in Minnesota and this happened? So it's kind of that conversation, and she said, I would call you. I could not come to Minnesota. It's a good thing that she's in Vermilion, because I feel like she might still call me. But those are really good examples of kind of having them figure it out themselves. And then one's own actions lead to one's outcomes. So a couple other things. that I wrote down from Julie's book that I don't necessarily have on here. Preparing for life versus protecting from life. So I like to say that you are the safety net, but you're not doing everything. You're not protecting, you're preparing. So one of my favorite things to say with Ava and with my junior too, Julia, is I trust that you can figure this out. They get very sick of hearing that, but I say that a lot. I trust that you can figure this out. I'm here if you have any questions. I'm here when you're ready to kind of talk through this and process through this. In the end, I trust that you can figure this out. And guess what? They do. They really do. Adult skills. So autonomy, cooking, cleaning, laundry, filling car with gas, making a budget, paying bills, changing a tire, making appointments, managing schedule, and then handling and interpersonal problems. So all of those things, seek out opportunities to help put that independence in their way. Okay, more random thoughts. So take a challenging curriculum junior and senior year headed to college. I tell students this all the time. I would any day take a student with a B on their transcript who takes the AP classes and really challenges themselves than a student who kind of pads their schedule with cushy classes and wants to graduate with a 4.0. That's not serving anyone, okay? So take the classes that are going to challenge you. I also tell students, worry about learning, worry about gaining that knowledge. That should be the goal in classes. When you go into a class, think about what can I take from this, what knowledge can I take from this class, not what grade can I earn. If you worry about what you are learning and the new knowledge you are taking in, the grade will take care of itself. Okay, check with colleges you are considering to learn about their AP credit policy and transfer credit policy. So some numbers here. Dual credit, so our concurrent classes, which are the classes that are in class taught by our instructors. So for example, AP Bio, College Algebra, AP US History, AP Lit and Comp, AP Gov, I know I'm missing a whole bunch, AP Spanish. All of those classes, those are concurrent credit. So you're taking them in the classroom with our instructors, but you're getting the dual credit from Mount Marty. Those ones are going to be very beneficial if the school accepts them. I will say we have not had a problem with any school around this area accepting those credits. Those credits are $60 per credit hour, so it ends up being a really good deal. As opposed to if you're taking a Board of Regents credit, you're not going to pay the $60 per credit hour, you're going to pay $253.85 per credit hour. So you can see how that pays off. Now, that being said, some students, they're not ready to take a college class until they're in college, and that's okay. It really is. I didn't take a single college class until I was in college, and that served me pretty well, I like to think. So it is a good deal financially, but also find that sweet spot, find that balance for what's good for you and what's going to be a good deal, and also what's going to serve you and still protect kind of mental health and keep you on track with things that you want to do, and give you enough time to do the things in high school that you find rewarding and fulfilling, besides just AP credit. Build your resume. So this is important, kind of as I mentioned, right now is the time to find that passion, find that interest. The other thing with building your resume and stepping outside your comfort zone, don't be a mile wide and an inch deep. So think about that for a second, a mile wide and an inch deep. So I've kind of got my hands in a whole bunch of different things, but I'm not too invested in any of it. What schools like to see and what's best for kind of human development is finding what you're really passionate about and then all in on those things. So I think that's going to be more important and serve you better and help set you up for more opportunities too. Volunteer. So volunteer, studies have shown that volunteerism actually boosts physical and mental health. So it is good for you. Service can also be an important part of the admission or scholarship process. So we found that, and I'll give an example for this. We have one scholarship that requires 100 hours of community service, and most years, that one, no one even applies for it. And it's really not hard to get 100 hours, especially when you find something that you're passionate about. So those are kind of my random thoughts. Okay. Final thoughts, make the junior year your planning year. So as we've discussed, this is a really important year. Take your college visits, step foot on campus, step foot on many campuses. I think there's nothing better than kind of like stepping foot on that campus and seeing how would it feel to be here for 2 years, for 4 years. Meet with people in programs that you're interested in, have lunch in the cafeteria, see what they can offer you with those individual campus tours. Be involved in your students' post-high school planning. So this goes along with what I said with raising an adult. I will tell you, not having Infinite Campus for my college student, and she had really good grades, straight A student, but not having Infinite Campus for her has been wonderful. Just having a phone call and saying, how are your classes going? Good, okay. You know, I don't have to do that, but I think it is our job as parents to be that safety net and be involved in like the Infinite Campus checking and making sure that everything is going well. Again, finding the sweet spot, so finding the balance. Anyone have the notifications that anytime a grade comes in, it gives you a notification on Infinite Campus? Oof, I had that for a while, yikes. It was not good for my own mental health. So my sweet spot, yeah, Jennifer knows. I would frequently come for office counseling when some grades came in for some of my children. But anyway, I think finding the sweet spot, so for me it's like checking once a day, and then checking with them as well, making them a part of that rather than like the notifications that pop up. So you find your sweet spot. Go with them to the college visits, go with them to meet people. But then again, you know, it's this thing where I walk ahead of you, I walk beside you, and then I walk behind you. I think right now we're kind of as junior parents, we're kind of in the beside to taking a step back and then walking behind them. So when you do things like the visits, kind of step back, let them introduce themselves, let them talk. Don't be the one like doing all the talking. And then, very importantly, let us help you in the process. So that is literally our job, is to help your students. Our doors are always open, whether it's a phone call, an email, a visit in. We love, connecting with you guys and then helping be a part of this planning and this exciting time. And finally, thanks for all you do. Okay, that's it. I think there's a junior year be ever in your favor. Yes. Okay, so questions. Any questions about any part of this presentation? Nothing? Okay, this is going to be posted. So we'll post the PowerPoint, we will post the video, and then any other questions, feel free to give us a call, email, or stop in. Thanks for coming.
He does. Oh. Well.
I just did not show up. Yeah, he did.
That could be. Yep, that definitely makes a difference. Yep.
So, the cutoff score is always different. So it's different every year. We will get something. Saying, here are your students for eligible.